Hey, I'm back again with another one. And I just wanted to share my testimony. I just wanted to reflect on where he has brought me from. And I wanted to give my testimony about how I've overcome through Christ the spirit of negative compromise. And the reason I say it's a spirit is because it or maybe I'll say the behaviors of negative compromise, because it's something that I had to not only unlearn, but it was almost like a stronghold, okay? And the reason I wanted to really hone in on this, because some of us are in situations where we were brought up to compromise with things that we wasn't necessarily wanting or approved of, or anything for the sake of keeping peace, for the sake of showing someone that we care about them, that we love them, and that we want to be in it in the long haul. For my ladies and gents, this could look like, if you want a commitment, your partner is not ready for the commitment, you stick around because you want to show them that you love them for them, and that you're willing to stay in the long run, in the long haul for them. For some people, this may look like, hey, your belief system is, hey, no sex before marriage. You're over here, your partner is like, well, I have to test this out before I put a ring on it. So you compromise your values because you want to keep that person and you love them, and you know that y'all are just meant to be, but they don't care enough about your purity and how you feel, so you compromise it because you're like, well, you try to find some understanding in these things. Compromise is detrimental to your spirit. For all my believers, when it's coming in between what God has told you to do and what his standards are, and so you compromise his standards for earthly gain, whether it's a mate, whether it's to keep your mate, whether it's for a job, a career, and you feel guilty about it because it's like, okay, well, I feel like I had to do it because I wanted to keep this, I wanted to do this. And I just wanted to talk to my people who have went through that situation. Okay, so I say this, from my own experience. I'm just gonna lay it all out on the line, right? I've been engaged like twice in my life. My first engagement, he knew who I was and he respected my standard. And that was when I had a better idea of who I was. And then as I got older, and you go through different tests, you kind of lose sight of who you are and you're tested. And when I was in my second engaged relationship, I realized that I had lost my way. I was in college, and so I had lost my way. Certain things, I was still sweet and I still had a standard, but there were things that I started to decrease on. Like, whereas I would say I don't want to have sex until marriage, I would sit there and I began having sex. And a lot of that came from previous thought patterns of feeling like, well, my virginity was taken. I didn't willingly give it up. You get what I'm saying? And so that made me feel like my value was diminished. And so there's no reason for me to save myself because, I already done lost my virginity. And so I had took down from that standard. But then I noticed, this is what God had to teach me. When you take down from one, you'll eventually start taking down from all, okay? Because that's just how it is, when you don't live according to his laws, he said it's just like going looking at yourself in the mirror and then forgetting what you look like when you leave the mirror. And that's basically what had happened to me. I would get a revelation and then it wouldn't stick because I had all of these thought patterns and this mindset of I'm not worthy of this type of love because I felt like my value had diminished. So me keeping my standard, and it wasn't as strong as what it used to be, and the level of compromise increased. So whereas I would stamp, hey, no sex before marriage, I was having sex before marriage, and then it led to my standards of not smoking and all of that. I began smoking smoking that ganja, baby. If you know. I began doing things like that when I was in college, and I smoked Black and Milds and things that I would not normally even partake in. I began to partake in it and was introduced, while I was in college, okay, aside from how I was taught and how I was raised. But it all really unfolded from me feeling like I didn't have value anymore. And it broke me. I would cry myself to sleep, and it was something that took years and years and years and years and years to get over. And so compromise, it just, the mindset adapted into compromising me. Let me tell you, it took a while for me to get to a point where I started standing back on my standard. And when I would sit there and have revelations from God and I would focus again, it's like I would get fought even harder. When I was engaged and I began to focus, it's not like my fiance didn't want to fall in line with my standard. He agreed. But then we started getting fought in other areas, and then he basically pretty much almost left me for someone else, all because of that. And I had to get to a point where I did not care. I did not care about any of that. But yet and still, that mindset hadn't been changed. So I was living years and years and years on a mindset of compromise and didn't really understand it. I call it hiding yourself, because whereas I knew who I was in Christ, I knew what I wanted, I felt like I didn't deserve it because I felt diminished. I felt like my value was taken from me because I always had in my mind I was going to get married. My first person that I ever was intimate with, we was going to be married, we was going to have a family. And when that did not happen, I felt like my value just went out the window. And it destroyed me. It did. But God put back the pieces. And it took me literally having to be stripped and not have anything left, for it to come back to me. And what I mean by that is, I was in this, it wasn't even a relationship. It was a situationship that I was in for 3.5 years. And it broke me. The person, he made sure he wanted to break my confidence. He wanted to break how my assertiveness. He would talk about me. His friends would talk about me in my face, and I would just allow it because it's like, I'm not gonna stoop down to your level, but still wouldn't cut him off because I had gave myself to him, and I had that level of compromise there. I was like, because I hadn't fully given myself to God, and I was compromising my relationship with God. I was compromising in a relationship. First of all, I ain't never been in no situationship before. So I compromised my standard of that. And I gave myself that excuse, to live by, and it damaged me so bad. My mindset, I was going back and forth in my mind, and some people might say that can never be me. Well, some of you are living like that and you don't even know it. You're living like that because you think you're in control, but you're not getting what you want. You might think you are. Okay, yeah, I get to have sex whenever I want, or this, but you're not getting what you truly want. I truly wanted a relationship, a marriage, a family, a child in wedlock, and I wanted to have a godly relationship. And any little inkling that he would give me that he was going to do right, it just convinced me to stay. And I had already given myself to the God. And so, layered so deep, even concerning my health, the compromises he put me through. And I convinced myself that, well, he's the only person I'm going to be with, so it's okay. Even though I was offended, even though I was angry, but the person I was angry with the most was myself, and I just cannot catch a grip. But let me tell you, God, he stripped me of all of that. The guy ended up having a child with someone else while he was supposed to be talking to me. And it took me even a while to register that situation. But then God really he had to sit me down and let me know I allowed that to happen, so you can let that situation go, because he wasn't worth your value anyway. And you have to love yourself. And I'm going to show you how to love yourself. And I'm going to show you what's beautiful about you and what's still valuable about you. There's a lot of things still valuable about you. He had to break off the strongholds of me not feeling valued. And he had to break the stronghold of feeling like, another person cannot love me. But see, he had to show me what to love about me. And that's how compromise began to break off. That's how standing up for what he told me to boldly with authority, that's where that comes from, because he showed me who I was in him. And when he began to show me who I was, I didn't care about what anybody else thought, what they think. I don't care, and I didn't care. And the thing about it is, when you're moving on God's timing, and when you allow him to show you who you are, it's not going to matter what nobody else say. It's not going to matter. Don't get me wrong, it might sting a little bit, but you'll be like, baby, you don't even got no control over what go over here. It's just me and God right now, okay? It's me and him. God got me to a point where it doesn't matter if I have somebody in my life or I don't. He have gotten me to a point where the love that I have for myself and the love that I have for him, me and him, I don't want to compromise it. Not for a man, not for a friend, not for a career, not for no money, not for none of that. Because what he give me, nobody else can give me, and they have never given me. He have never loved me. I have always loved him. And when I align myself with God, and he began to show me through him, oh, y'all, the compromise left. He broke the compromise. And I just hope that this testimony touches somebody, because the thing about it is, somebody somewhere thinking that it's nothing left for them. Their best days have already came and went, and they have this mindset that there's nothing beautiful about them. But the devil is a lie. There's so much beauty in who you are. There's so much beauty in what you possess as a person. But you will never see it if you don't go to God. You will never see it if you don't seek him and fast after him and delight yourself in him. That means to take liking to him, the things that come with him. And some people might say, well, I don't want to be holiest in thou. You're not being holiest in thou by getting to know who your creator is. When you get to know who he is, you get to know who you are. There's certain stuff you're just not going to deal with when you know who you are. And when you know who he is. You walk different. You talk different. There's nothing that no one can tell you when you walk into a room, whether you big money or you don't got that much money. Nobody can tell you nothing, because you know who you are. You know where your identity lies. And it changes you forever. You can never go back. I had to be broken. God had to break me. And it didn't feel graceful, baby. The journey felt like, God, why am I going through this? Why can't I just be normal like everybody else? They have their relationships, but I had to realize I'm not like nobody else. He called me to do a specific thing for a specific person for a specific season or seasons. And the sooner I get in line, I got in line with him, the sooner I'll be able to understand what all this riffraff is about. See, some of y'all displeased with your lifestyle. You displeased with your life. You wondering, is it worth it? Was it worth it? You know, is there anything left? And it is. That's why you have that feeling, because you're meant to do more. You're required to do more. You might wonder how. That's between you and God. You looking at it on your own, in your own mind, from your own situation. But God is bigger than your situation. He bigger than you. He bigger than the whole riffraff, and you being confused and you wondering what's going on. A lot of the time, God allowed things never to work out because that's not what he got for you. He got something better. One day I was driving in the car, and I'm going to tell you, one day I was with God and was door dashing, and I was telling God, that, I wanted whatever he had for me. And this is how big God thinks, okay? I was having a conversation with God about what he had for me. And then a customer came out. This was months ago. And the customer said, I have a $10 tip in my hand right here, and I have a $20 tip in my hand right here. And he said, which one would you like? I said, well, I'll take whichever one you'll give me. He said, which one do you want? For real. Which one do you really want? Don't be modest. Do you want the 10 or do you want the 20? I said, well, I want the 20. I'm just going to be honest. I want the 20. He gave it to me. He said, you have a nice night. And then the Holy Spirit gave me like a knowledge, and he connected it for me. I was like, God, I want the 20. I want the 20. It's like I can hear him say, do you want the 10 or do you want the 20? And what I interpreted from that interaction is, yeah, there's some things in life where it's a 10. Yeah, that guy you want, he might be a 10. He might be aesthetically pleasing. He might have the money. He might know how to wine and dine you here and there. But he don't have a relationship with God. But he don't know how to talk to you when he don't know how to communicate when he's angry. But he's aesthetically pleasing. He provides. He know how to wine and dine. He know how to talk to you nice when he want what he want. But he don't have any emotional intelligence. But that 20 got a relationship with God. That 20 respects you. And he got the money. And he look good. And the chemistry is good. He make you hot, baby, and you make him hot. And he only got eyes for you. See, the 20, I want the 20 in life. And compromise. Some of us are compromising the 20 for the 10. And we think the 10s in life is all that's for us. The 10, I got this nice house, and well, yeah, I do have a pretty decent career, and well, yeah, life ain't that bad, but you're not satisfied. You're not happy. You dread going to work. It pay the bills, but you dread going to work. All I'm saying is, we compromise things. We compromise. And you could be compromising yourself right out of your blessing. It took me years to realize that I was compromising my blessings. Sometimes we will compromise so someone can stay. But when it's compromising your character, when it's compromising your value, when it's compromising things that disturb you on the inside and you just can't shake it, that's the wrong thing to do. Sometimes you have to walk away from people, places, and things that you really do love, but it's compromising you. You only get one you. You only have one life. Don't spend it compromising who you are. And this is coming from somebody who would compromise her voice for the sake of peace. There's a time to be quiet, but there's also a time to speak. There's also a time to stand up. Some of us are compromising truth for lies for the sake of peace, when really you're meant to shake up a room. That's part of what God had you to do. But you cannot walk in it and what he has you to do if you constantly compromising yourself. This is coming from somebody who done went through this. And I just pray that this encourages someone. I really do. I pray that this encourages someone and that it gives them that strength that they need to stop compromising themselves, their values, and their standards. And to really see that you are valuable. No matter what you've been through, you are valuable. I love you, and I'll see you in the next one.